Hello and welcome to The Sensible Witch. I'm Julie, and this is a channel where we talk about common sense witchcraft. Today I wanted to talk about the upcoming holidays of Beltane and Walpurgisnacht. I wanted to go through a little bit of information with you guys, tell you a little bit about Beltane, a little bit about the history. We won't get too deep into the history. If you're interested, you can always look it up. This is one of the books that I use when I'm planning. Llewellyn has produced this series, and it's an entire series. You can buy either one book, you can buy the whole series with all the 8 holidays of the Wheel of the Year in them. So there's a lot of interesting information in these books. So a little bit about Beltane. Beltane is the cross quarter or fire festival day halfway between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. When it is Beltane in the northern hemisphere, it is Samhain in the southern hemisphere. So the energy is very similar, and that kind of speaks to what I do on Beltane. Beltane celebrates life, fertility, growth, and light. Beltane has its roots in the ancient Roman festival of Floralia, I don't know if I said that right, as well as the pre-Christian festival of Beltane and other European May Day celebrations. Fire seems to have played a big part in Beltane celebrations, and early Europeans would drive their cattle through 2 fires to ensure their health and protection. People would also walk between the fires or jump over them to ensure a good harvest. The fires were believed to have magical properties capable of granting health and protection. Water was also important at Beltane. The Beltane morning dew would be collected and used on the face to preserve youth, clearing skin and enhancing attractiveness. Flowers were used to deck the halls and to adorn the cattle and equipment. Currently, Beltane celebrations are about fertility, new beginnings, and creativity. Many pagans gather outside for ritual, bonfires, and maypole dances. Walpurgisnacht, or Witch's Night, is celebrated annually on April 30th into May 1st, marking the transition to spring. Rooted in pagan customs and tied to Saint Walburga, it is famously known as Night of the Witches, where legends said witches gather for revelry. Germany celebrates with bonfires to ward off evil, festivals, costumes, and dancing. The festival was formerly associated with the 8th century Saint Walpurga, but its customs blend with pagan celebrations of spring fertility. So on Beltane, I love to do my spirit communications with my ancestors, as the veil between the worlds is thinner than usual, as it is on Samhain. So first I gather up all my supplies and set up my altar, which we're going to do together in a minute. And then I put on my ritual clothes. Now, my ritual clothes aren't fancy, but I reserve them for ritual use only. So while I'm getting dressed, I play a certain music and I put on certain clothes, and this tells my brain that, hey, I'm getting ready to perform magic, need to get into all that. So next I'll light the candles and incense and invite my ancestors by name if I know it. So, who do I work with? Who are my ancestors? Well, I have several ancestors that I knew during life. My mother, my grandfather, my aunt, my uncle, a number of relatives like that. There are some relatives that I knew during their life that I don't invite into my circle because they were nasty people. I didn't like them in life, and I still don't like them now that they're gone. So you don't have to invite anybody you don't want. Another ancestor that I work with was my kitty named Natalie. I had Natalie for about 14 years, and I lost her 2 years ago. And very, very shortly after I lost her, she reached out to me right away. She started communicating with me, and she said she wanted to help me. She wanted to study and learn and become my familiar so she could help me. So she is now my familiar, and so I include her in my ancestor altar, as well as other pets that I've lost, but she's a key one because she is my familiar. I also work with unknown ancestors, ancestors that go back farther than I know, and I have certain decks of cards that I use to work with them, and I'll break all that down for you in just a little bit. And then I work with what I call ancestors of the heart. I think we all have people in our lives that are special to us for whatever reason, but we're not related by blood or marriage. But there are some very special people that were around a lot when I was growing up, and people that I love completely. And so I include those people on my ancestor altar as well. So when I gather up all my supplies and light my candles and my incense, call my ancestors, then I do divination and I listen to what they tell me. And I do several types of divination. I use tarot cards, I use oracle cards, I use pendulum, and I use fire and incense scrying. So those are my methods. So let's go take a look at my altar setup. So here is my altar. Like I said, I have pictures of my ancestors that I bring out for my ancestor communications, but I don't show those. I have a candle here. I'm not going to light it right now because I'm not going to do my divination right now. I will also bring personal effects of my ancestors. So I mentioned my familiar. These are her ashes, so I will bring those out. I also like to grab a skull, and it's important to have a skull with a jawbone. A lot of skulls end right here at the top teeth, but you need to have the jawbone on there so they can communicate with you, they can talk to you. And for my divination, the main thing that I use is cards and pendulums. So I have here a pendulum board. This is just a little board that I made. You can buy these. You can draw it out on a piece of paper. I put the pendulum on the board so that they can kind of get to know each other. And then I asked the pendulum, are you willing to work with me? Okay, I'm getting a yes. Usually I'll say, can you give me a yes? Can you give me a no? Getting a very slight no there. So, and then I will ask to speak to each of my ancestors by name. I usually, if I've never worked with them before, I usually ask them what deck they prefer to use to communicate. However, I've communicated with my mom and my familiars so often that I know that they prefer this Everyday Witch Tarot by Deborah Blake. It's a beautiful deck. But one of the most important things for this tarot and this method of communication is the book, because I'll draw the cards, and I'll show you how I do that in just a minute here. And then sometimes the cards don't really make sense to me until I read the book, and then I'm like, oh, now it makes sense. So I will shuffle my cards, and I will tell my cards what I want them to do. Say I want to communicate with, add the name of your ancestor here. Whoops. And there are numerous ways to do this, but this is the way that I do it. I just will cut the deck, and then I will just kind of feel the energy of each stack of cards, and one stack will feel warmer than the other stack. So those are the cards that I choose. I'm not really doing it right now, but those are the cards that I choose, the warmer ones. We'll use this stack, and then I get down to 2 or 3 cards, and then I feel each card. If I feel like they're all kind of the same, I'll read them all. If I'm not getting any readings or any warmness at all, I'll reshuffle the deck and go from there. So that's how I do it. That's what works for me, but you know, find what works for you. If you have several decks like I do, you can ask your ancestors which ones they prefer to work with. Or if you have one deck, work with your one deck. That's great. I have so many decks. We'll do a deck review at some point. And then this oracle is the Beloved Dead, and I usually use this one to it's a retreat I went to speak to my ancestors that I don't know. So beautiful large book came with this. And then this deck has 3 different kinds. Look at the edges of that. Oh, so beautiful. Has 3 different kinds of cards. You have the Spirit Throne, and then they have 2 different types of cards. I don't even know what they are now. But your Spirit Throne is for your special invited ancestor. So my mother usually gets this spot. But then I go through and use this to communicate with the ancestors that I don't know. And it works well for me. I also have the Memento Mori deck by Claire Goodchild. It's a pretty amazing deck, but I haven't really used it for communication. I plan to take it to the cemetery and check that out. And then when I finish, if I have additional questions, I go back to the pendulum to kind of clear things up. Is this what you meant? Is this the right card? If a card is just not making sense to me, I'll ask them if it's the right card. Sometimes I'll get a no. Sometimes I'll get a yes. Sometimes you don't know what your ancestors are telling you. But and then after I finish those things, I will do my fire scrying. I have candles lit the whole time. I'll do my fire scrying or incense scrying, kind of depending what I'm feeling that night. And I just sit. I will sit for a very long time and just stare at the flame or stare at the smoke. And I kind of describe it as I listen with my heart and see what messages are coming through to me. And then when I finish everything, I will have cakes and ale, which for me, I usually buy a lemon cake at the grocery store. That I really enjoy that cake. And I'm not a beer drinker, so I will usually have a little bit of wine. And so I invite my ancestors and my goddess to share in my offerings with me. And I have my own dishes, and they have their own dishes where I put the offerings for them. So that is how I will do my Beltane altar this year. So that is my altar setup, and those are my plans for Beltane. What are your plans? I'd love to hear about them in the description or in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. It does help my channel out. Also, if you'd like to check out my store, I have dropped a number of witchy items in my store, so take a look at that. I will link that below. And you can follow me on Facebook, where I'm mostly active, and on Instagram, where I try to be active, but I just don't understand it as well as I understand Facebook. So there's more stuff on Facebook, but The Sensible Witch, I will link all those below. Give me a follow. I hope everybody has a happy and wonderful Beltane and Walpurgisnacht, and I will see you next time. Bye.